things mixed up. Here's your money back. Oh, that manager, you can imagine, was so excited. He was so happy. He said, I'm going to call the newspaper. I'm going to have your picture put on the local newspaper front page. To which this man said, no, don't do that. And then he whispered in the ear of the manager, the woman that I am with is not my wife. She is someone else's wife. Integrity. Integrity. What's the definition again? Who you really are when no one is looking. I like to watch golf on television. There was a day when I played some golf. But some years ago, there was a golfer named Ray Floyd, or Raymond Floyd. Raymond Floyd was in a tournament, and he was in the lead. He was getting prepared to tap in a routine 9-inch putt, and he saw that ball move ever so slightly. He saw it. According to the rule book, if the ball moves in this way, the golfer can be assessed and would be assessed a penalty stroke. Yet consider the situation. Floyd was among the leaders in the tournament that was offering at that time over $200,000 in prize money. To acknowledge that the ball had moved could mean that he would lose his chance of being the winner of that tournament. One columnist, a sports columnist, describes as follows what others might have done. Well, the pro golfer ducks his head. He throws his arms wildly around as if being attacked by a killer bee. Next, he steps away from the ball and somehow rubs his eyes as if something has gotten in him. He scans the crowd. He looks at his partners and says, do you think to himself anyone else noticed that movement of the ball? Raymond Floyd's integrity cost him the tournament and the prize money, but he maintained his integrity. Young people, above all costs, you want to maintain your integrity because once you give it away, it is so difficult to get back. Who you really are when no one else is looking. Now, being a person of integrity is a process. And I just want to give you 2 simple steps of how to maintain your integrity. You see, God gives to each and every one of us. We've all been created in the image of God. We are marred by sin, but God has created us in His image. And by the way, we are not an animal. We are created in the image of God. The world wants you to believe that you're an animal so that you can just proceed to act like animals. But God said, I have breathed my breath into each and every person. You are different. That'll come back in just a moment. Step number 1, I believe, in trying to maintain our integrity is drawing a line and knowing the boundaries. Now, Joseph. You've gone to a Christian school. Hopefully you know the story of Joseph. You know that Joseph was the son of Jacob. You know that Joseph, when he was 17 years of age, his brothers were very jealous of him. He had just received a very handsome coat, and the brothers didn't like it. They thought that their dad favored Joseph more than they loved them. One day, as he went to see his brothers, the brothers began to plot as they saw him come on the horizon. And they decided that they would throw him into a well. And in the process of him staying there, they plotted then to sell him to some slave traders that were passing through that area. Joseph became a slave in Egypt. He was in charge of Potiphar's home and all that Potiphar owned. His master trusted him. But Potiphar's wife began to take notice of Joseph. And this is in the book. Genesis chapter 39, verses 6 and 7 says that Joseph was well built. You didn't know that was there. It's there. And handsome. And Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph to come and sleep with her. Joseph refused to give in to her demands. And Potiphar's wife kept up the pursuit and even tried to strip Joseph of his clothes. However, Joseph continued to refuse. It would have been easy to give in, please Mr. Potiphar's wife. Mr. Potiphar would never have had to know. But do you remember the word integrity? Who you really are when no one else is looking. Being a person of integrity is a process. And step number one is knowing the boundaries and staying within those boundaries. Have you ever noticed a football game? Have you ever noticed that the most used part of a football field is the middle of the field? It's because there are side boundaries. And once you go outside the boundaries, play stops. Like the opposing football team, Satan is trying to get us to step out of bounds. Again, remember, our instructions are not Dr. Phil, not Oprah, not someone else, not even at times the actions of those closest to you. Our guideline is this book. To develop our integrity, we have to draw the lines, even at your age. And if you don't draw the lines now, you will never draw lines. Since everyone makes mistakes, I think staying away from those boundaries as far as we can is the best advice that you can heed to today. So step number one, decide today to obey God-given boundaries. Number two, becoming aware of our choices. Joseph was aware that Potiphar had trusted him with everything that he had, except, as the scripture says, his wife. Joseph thought it through, and on that particular item, he was not going to cross the line, because if he crossed the line, it meant disobeying God and God's boundaries and hurting the one man that trusted him, had shown him mercy and kindness to him. He thought out his choices. So number one is decide to obey God's boundaries. And number two is think about the choices that you're going to make. Think about it. I imagine that Joseph's mind went this way. If I sleep with this lady, I have disobeyed God. If I sleep with this lady, I have broken the trust of the one man that has shown me kindness. If I sleep with this lady, I could lose my job. If I sleep with this lady, I could be killed or thrown into prison. Young people, soon to be senior class of 2018, every choice that you make from this moment on has consequences. The culture today says to us, it's okay as long as you don't get caught. Or it's not that bad because everyone else is doing it. You look at me and you say, well, you're just an old man and you don't know what you're really talking to. What does he know? Believe it or not, I used to be a senior in high school. I went off to college. I didn't stay at home. My parents raised me to be independent and go off to college. I didn't go to college just down the street and stay at home. I moved 900 miles away. Was it frightening? Yes, it was frightening. But it was one of the best things that I could ever do. Because all of a sudden you began to become your own person. You say, well, a lot of years ago there wasn't much temptation, there wasn't a whole lot of this or that or whatever else. I am a part of the Vietnam generation. I'm a part of Woodstock. I'm a part of the generation of free drugs and free life. So don't tell me I don't know what you're dealing with these days. And the truth is that my parents and my grandparents, they all dealt with the same kind of issues, same kind of things. The only difference is you see it firsthand in the palm of your hand on a daily basis. Everything that the world wants you to see and everything that you let the world show you. Now, when I was asked to speak, I'm not sure that they thought that I was going to go this direction. But the reality is that when faced with making certain choices, I would ask myself what my choice was going to do. What choice was it going to have in my relationship with God? What choice that I might have would affect my schooling, my health? What choices would affect my parents? Let me pause here for a moment. Your parents have invested time and energy and love into you, and sometimes if you're not careful, you make stupid choices that affect your parents. Well, it's not about them. Yes, it is about them. Well, they told me about some of their childhood. Parents, don't tell them about your childhood. Don't tell them about your teenage years until they're able to understand in the fullness. You can live for only yourself and whatever your flesh desires. And that's what I meant earlier. That's what the world wants you to say. You're just an animal. You can't help yourself. You're just like a dog, out in the streets or whatever else. No, you're not. You're a child of God. You have the image of God implanted in you, and greater things are expected of you than the things of the people of the world. Integrity knows where to draw the lines, living within them and asking ourselves what the consequences will be to my choices. One day Jesus was teaching his disciples, and he says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. So back to the story of integrity of Joseph. One day Potiphar's wife had enough of Joseph's no. So she went to her husband and said that Joseph had forced himself upon her, and Potiphar, feeling betrayed, threw Joseph in prison. Well, look where his integrity got him. He landed in prison for doing nothing. He should have at least had some fun if he was going to be thrown into prison. But the scripture says that God was with Joseph. See, God saw the integrity of Joseph, and God stayed with him and enabled him to continue to stay within the lines of his word and make the right choices. At times, when God is with you, he will open certain doors. And a door was opened for Joseph to interpret the dream of Pharaoh, that number one guy in all of Egypt. And when he interpreted that dream, he began to find favor with Pharaoh. And Pharaoh saw that he could trust Joseph because Joseph was a man of integrity. And Joseph was elevated from the prison to second in command of all Egypt. Young people, students, class of 2018, do not ever let anyone tell you to short circuit or to lie or to cheat. I hope that some of you listen to me, and I say this with all my heart. Right now, if we ever need Christian leadership, it is now. Whether it's in the government, whether it's in business, whether it's in the church. Because preachers do some stupid stuff every once in a while. They step outside the boundaries of God. Yes, God is able to forgive, but getting back that integrity is difficult. So, here's all I'm trying to tell you. You're going to be seniors next year. You're going to be having kids look up to you. Do not be a person who lacks integrity, but be a person who has integrity. And you don't have to go around telling everyone, I have integrity. People who tell me that, forget it. But when you have integrity, other people will be a witness for the fact that you are a person of integrity. So, stay within the lines. Oh, Pastor Jim, weren't you ever tempted to step outside? Yeah, I was. Stay within the lines. And number two, what's number two? Do you remember? Anybody? Think about the choices and the consequences of your choices. When you do those two things, you will be a person of integrity. And people will look up to you. Students will look up to you. I pray that you set a pattern next year. I pray that you will be the very best that you can be, that God has created you to be. I'm very proud of you, each and every one of you, for reaching this point in place of being a possible soon-to-be senior at Princeton Christian School. Father in heaven, thank you for your goodness, and thank you for these moments to be able to share. Now we ask that you would be with us as we go through the rest of this time together. And I pray even now, Father, for the senior class that will meet here tonight in baccalaureate and here as well for commencement. May you bless them and those ministries and efforts for that class tonight as well. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
That I would like to share with each of you as Cermony is given to you. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Let your dreams be bigger than your fears, your actions louder than your words, and your faith stronger than your feelings. Thank you for not being afraid to think and to dream big, and to work hard and make your dreams come true. This ring ceremony, you made your dreams come true, not just for yourself, but you blessed all of your classmates because of it. So thank you. No pressure, no diamonds. Some days you just have to create your own sunshine. You're a make it happen kind of young lady. And as you have faced life struggles and pressures head on, God is refining and He's polishing you to become even more beautiful, like a precious diamond. And you're becoming a young woman reflecting the beauty of God within you towards your outward beauty. And so you are a precious diamond, and we love and appreciate you. Esme, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, but it's learning how to dance in the rain. Always remember you are braver than you believe, you're stronger than you seem, you're smarter than you think, and you're loved more than you know. And God sees, and we see, so much good, so much potential in you. You're smart, and you're a classy young lady. And God, well, we all believe He's going to do very big things in you. Congratulations.
Philip Jacob Cage.
Jake, keep your head up. God gives His hardest battles to His strongest soldiers. And sometimes God will put a Goliath in you so that you can find the David that's in you. And I believe he's done that in your life. It's difficult to understand sometimes why God allows unfair and very difficult times in our lives. Yet I believe that God has used these challenges for you to show you just how big that he is in you. And that you will always know throughout your life, whatever challenges you face, that your God is bigger than any difficulty. So congratulations.
Kyle Stephen Jones.
Well, Kyle, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but I will tell you that it's going to be worth it. Thomas Edison said this, "What you are will show in what you do." And I think that phrase lives very perfectly in your life and what you model. What you are, who you are in the dark and in the light of day is consistent. And it's consistent with your Christian testimony. We all appreciate that within you. And I love how God is so obvious in your life. I thank you that you work hard, and I thank you that you allow his character to be reflected in all you do and all you say. Congratulations.
Chaz Edward Albury.